and welcome to episode 522 of the God is a Geek podcast. That's 522. My name's Adam Cook. I'm your host, and I'm joined by the one, the only, Chris White. Hello, Chris. How are you, mate? All right?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Yeah, just woken up.
Oh, God.
But I'm good. I'm actually glad to be back. I'm just annoyed with everyone because they chose not to come on because I was coming back. So shows there's animosity in the team.
I mean, I'm here. That's the thing. I wouldn't miss this for the world. Like an intimate pod with the Chris White, and like it's gonna we have a lot of games to talk about. Well, 3 games. That's not a lot, actually, is it? It's just some games.
It's a lot of game. There's a lot to talk about.
I think that's in my head. I'm like, God, some of these are such big games that it feels like there's a lot of them. And I thought we would kick off. Like, I'm not sort of just rushing into it, but I really want to talk about these games. So I thought we would start with a game that, as we record this, the embargo's just lifted, and we gave Street Fighter 6 a 10 out of 10. And the reason I wanted to start with that is because you and I have both played some of it. And I'm really intrigued because obviously I've been to preview this twice at Capcom HQ and now played the final build and stuff. But you hadn't, so your experience of it was... I forget, did you play any of the demo in the end? I can't remember.
I dabbled with the World Tour stuff, but I kind of was like, I don't want to play too much because I want to experience... So I don't want to get to a point where I can't play anymore and I'm having to wait for it. So, so I just dove into the game World Tours first, and we talked about it in the preview when you and Sean had gone to experience it, and you were saying how it felt like Yakuza in a way, and that was the magic word, obviously, because we all love Yakuza, and it does, but it's so like just fantastic in every way. It's stupid, it's camp, but it's funny, and like, do you know what? One of the things that I loved about the world tour element of the game was meeting characters from the old games. It's like it's very exciting when you like. But the first kind of main one I think you meet is DJ.
Yes.
Like obviously there's Luke, isn't there?
Yes.
But
Luke and Chun-Li, I think, are the two you sort of have to meet straight off the bat.
Even Chun-Li, Chun-Li, when you go to meet her, it's like, oh my God, this is Chun-Li. She's like a legend.
Yeah.
But it's just a very cool way how it integrates the old characters into this story, and it's very exciting when you go around the world and you meet these characters that you've been playing as for decades, and they've done it in a completely new, fun way, and I just loved it. Like, putting the fighting aside, which is clearly incredible. Like, there's no.
Isn't that weird though? That like every time like anyone talks about this game, they talk about all the stuff it's doing, and it's almost like the fighting is almost not brushed aside, but it's just like it. No. Like Sean even said it in the review. Like, having fundamentals is important, of course, but like it's everything else. Like the fundamentals is the best I think a fight has been since Street Fighter 4 for me. But yeah, like with that, I just wanted to note that because it is so strange. Because games changed. I think Mortal Kombat did it a lot, where once they started doing that story mode thing, games changed and fighting games were no longer. Oh, what's the fighting like? There had to be more. But like, sorry, you were saying.
Yeah, no, you're spot on. Like, it is weird talking about like just assuming that the fighting's going to be good because we're going on about everything else. But like,
there's so much of it. There's so much of
this
this
game.
We'll
get to that fighting, but like the actual world tour, it's so. I don't know. It's so easy to play, and it's just I couldn't stop playing, and what I couldn't stop doing was just running up to people and just challenging them because obviously. You've got this story and its main threads, and it's not like the most complex of stories or anything. It's very kind of simple, but there's a story there. But it's not like the thing you're playing for, really. It's the different ways that you can play it. So you've got your main story, and then you've got all your side missions and stuff like that. And then you can do like little jobs to earn money. which are all like little mini games, aren't they? Like breaking concrete boards
But there's something interesting with that, right? That I hadn't noticed until I literally was editing Sean's review. So a lot of World Tour, and I think you and I should ask, like, are you? I know you're not like as big into fighters as say someone like myself or Sean, but did you? Like, first question, did you stick with the modern controls, or did you go back to classic kind of, Hadouken move sets that you probably know?
So originally I was like, I'm going to go classic because that's what I'm familiar with. But then as it went on, and you kind of, you obviously you can, your move set and style, you're grabbing from all different fighters that you learn with. So I found it was easy for me, and it does. Some fights do get a bit challenging.
This does as well, yeah.
And I don't know if it's because it gets more difficult because the enemies are very, like, you're fighting drones and bloody refrigerators.
Oh, I was going to ask if you fought a fridge.
I fought a fridge, yeah.
They're bastards.
They are. I just thought, you know what? I think for the purpose of the rest of my playthrough for the World Tour, I'll go to modern because it's a great addition because
100%.
It does feel like it's helping people start from scratch who've never played
100%. Accessibility wise, I think that's really. I know that there will be a very small subset who will whinge about it being, I don't know, like the button mashers thing. But like I think Sean said it best in his review again. Not to paraphrase it, but hey, go and read Sean's review on GodIsAGeek.com. In theory, I mean, we'll know in practice sooner rather than later. But in theory, someone who's really good at like the old controls will probably always beat someone who's even half decent with the new ones. But the reason I mentioned that is I think World Tour, because I think it's amazing. I just, I've been with saying this since we previewed it. It blew my mind what this thing is. Like, I know I say Yakuza. I suppose it's Yakuza Light, but there is RPG elements. There are leveling up. There are skill trees as such. There are, there's gear. There's all this stuff. And I do think, by the way, I think it's being almost swept under the rug and forgotten how cool it is, the fact you can create a fighter that like borrows half of Ken's moveset but then throws in spinning bird kicks and E-Honda's like charge, sumo rush sort of stuff. And I'll get to my point, sorry, it's one of these games I get so excited talking about it that I end up not making the point. The point I wanted to make about it is that I think it's also like a massive tutorial to get people understanding Street Fighter. Now, I know there's the side missions and stuff in the game where it's like, hey, beat me by doing a combo, beat that, and they're just like, that is so obviously designed to make you understand how to do that. But you mentioned the mini games. I don't know how many of them you played, but did you play the one, for example, where you have to sort of karate chop sideways bottles?
Yeah, I couldn't do it.
So I think I only realised this after going back and doing it on a higher level. That's to teach you how to do charge attacks. Because you hold right and then you press left and attack, which is like a guile. Do you know what I mean? Yeah,
now it makes sense.
Did you play the basketball one?
No.
Okay, so there's a basketball one where basically it goes into like a 2D fight. And for me, it was a woman on the side of the screen who just throws basketballs at you. There's no fight involved. It's just there to teach you the parry. So she throws a ball and you have to parry it, so you time the parry correctly. But then she throws like two quickly ones, and then it's pattern-based, and it's teaching you how to do a parry. Wow. And I'm trying to think what other ones there are. There are other ones. There's a pizza one, isn't there, as well? That's
There's because I don't want to spoil this one, but there's like one where it takes mini games of the past, as basic as they were, you're doing stuff like that. And if you know, I think.
Yeah.
Like the old Street Fighter 2s where you weren't fighting, like you might have been doing something else. Like they kind of implemented that with the kind of retro graphics as well.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
But
then again, I also think that's teaching, special moves and combos, how to keep attacking. And I think all of this game's World Tour mode, if you take it in chunks and think about, like, what am I doing right now, so much of each compartment of that World Tour story mode is teaching you how to play. And I hadn't, it was like, man, I was like over 10 hours before I noticed this. And again, it was only reading Sean's review where it's like, oh, he thinks it too. it sort of made me go away and think about, like I say, that chopping one. I went back to do it later and I'd forgotten how to do it, and then I realised, oh, it's a charge attack. It wants me to, Sonic Boom or like the Honda thing or the Blanca, charge across the screen roll, and that's what it is. And it's like it's teaching you the timing and the mechanic of holding, then pressing those two together to action it.
Yeah,
it's really quite clever. As well as, like you said, and I do agree, like it's camp, it's silly, it's fun. It's it's the kind of silly fun you don't really get outside of video games. Like, it's totally unashamed, and I love it for that. I love how it's just like, this is what we are.
Yeah, it is. It's just that, like, one of the things that I love about going back to the fighting is whenever you play a fighting game, you tend to find a character who you main as. And they may not be perfect, but they fit your style. Other times, there's players that can never quite find one to settle on. And I think the what they've done with how you kind of get your character to be the perfect version of the fighter you want to be by picking a style from one of your teachers, or, because obviously you go around the world and through the main story or through side missions, and you meet all these fighters, whether new or old. You can pick their main fighting style. So, like, Guile is like quite stationary. It's not as flexible as other characters, but his simple attacks are quite strong. Whereas I found like my main fighting style weirdly was Cammy.
Yeah, okay.
I went with Cammy. I originally was DJ for a long time, just because he's very like, his movement's quite swift, and I prefer that. And then, obviously, when you've got that movement, you can then layer on all your specials. So, like we were saying, you can have like the diving headbutt of E Honda, or the kind of cannonball of Blanca, and then you can incorporate the Hadoukens and the uppercut, and just like literally everything. And some of the new characters are great. Like, one of the characters that Sean mentioned in the review is Manon.
Yes.
Now, one of her moves that became a staple of my
is it the
repertoire.
throw?
Yeah.
My God, I will never remove that from my character.
It's
that is
super
so good.
Powerful, but also like certain moves have two layers, don't they? Like,
yes.
You do the throw, but then you can also, is it by holding it in or something like that? You can then lift them higher and do more damage when you drop them.
So it's got a counter. So if you throw them with that once, you'll get a little one appears under your health. If you do it again, you'll get 2, 3, and I think it's either 4 or 5. It does like, it gets more powerful every time you do it. So by like the 5th one, you're like, it's like a balletic jump in the air, spinning them round, smash them down. And of course, you can super it as well with the double button press. I found that incredibly useful, and that's another thing. Like, so I don't know if you found her, because I think Kimberly might be an optional character in the game that you can get as a mentor. She's got a move where she throws like spray cans that explode at your feet, and that does the same thing. Like, but it's kind of the opposite way. Like, she has a stock of 2 of those cans, and once you throw them down, you have to wait till it recharges. And so you can, like, so you've got all these mix and matches, but you've also got like mechanics that shouldn't exist with, like you say, DJ's moveset. They shouldn't exist, but they do, because, and you can I don't know if you've got a chance, you can do that online, by the way. You can take your avatar online to do an avatar battle, and that's great fun, because it's I spectated a few of them as well, and you see these people that have got their madcap sort of look about them with all these. How do you predict that, man? How do you predict? It's such a clever idea that you're almost like, how's this never been done? Because how do you, if you go up against someone you've never met before, or even if you and I were to go against each other for the first time, I wouldn't know your moveset, so you can't really predict.
No,
like, that's really exciting in a weird way. Like, if you, the very best players, I suspect, probably won't touch it, because it's not going to be as balanced, because level differences, and as I say, you can't predict it. Whereas if you play against a Ken, you know what Ken's moveset is. But for people like myself, somewhere in the middle, who just really enjoy the game of all sorts, like, it's a really cool, clever idea. It just seems amazing. I've never seen it before. I know Mortal Kombat tried it a bit, I think, with gear, didn't they?
Sorry, that's my phone alarm.
It's a great tune. But yeah, I know Mortal Kombat tried that with like with the gear stuff, but I don't think they kind of went all the way, did they? Like, it was just...
No. I think... Right, it's not going to go off again. Live TV, live podcast.
Yes, this is the way it goes.
So, like, I know we keep going on about the World Tour, but it is kind of like the main... Like, we all...
I mean, it's a 20-plus hour campaign. Like, it is a big portion of this game.
I'm only at about 12 hours, and I've kind of had to take a break because of other stuff. But I've like the unlocking the different characters. You can obviously you naturally will meet like the roster throughout, because you have to go to certain places to do certain things to unlock them for the story. But then like the side stuff, like I think there's only 2 left for me to unlock now.
Some are optional, by the way. Some you have to go by side quests, like Dalsim. I think Manon is one. I think Zangief is one. Zangief is one, because I just literally was playing the other day and I found a side quest that I hadn't seen.
I think Dalsim is the only, and Zangief are the 2 that I haven't found.
I think Kimberly is too.
London?
You definitely meet her in the story, but I unlocked her.
I've gone back. I think she went on from London.
No, it's Cammy. Actually, speaking of, I don't think Cammy's early on in the game, but Kimberly's on a roof at night time, because some characters you can only meet at day and some characters you can only meet at night.
Yeah, I don't think I've met Kim.
I'm still missing one from Metro City that's a nighttime character. I actually need to work out who that is.
Yeah, there's another one I was reading in Sean's review. I can't remember her name, but she's a girl who's like got ties to Tomahawk people.
Oh, Lily.
Yeah. Like, I think, is she optional as well?
I think so, because I had unlocked the location for her, and I just somehow missed that I'd done that, and then I went there, and like she was level 15 to my 37 at the time, and it was like, oh, I'm going to batter you.
That's another thing about this is that when you start off and you start unlocking people, and they always, like, as part of their progression and your friendship with them, you have to fight them. Yes. I remember the first time I fought, like, Chun-Li, for example, and she battered me. She absolutely destroyed me. And it kept becoming a theme where I'd go against these people and they just destroy me. And it was so like annoying. I thought, I don't have to beat them on this go, because obviously when they've defeated you, they'll just torture you, like, you know. But then you go back and you beat them, and it's like the most satisfying thing, because you're beating your master. Like it's just fantastic.
I think it took 5 attempts for me to beat my main master, which was Ken. Like, he just would fucking annihilate me every time.
Yeah. But that's kind of, it shows you how you improve as well. Like, and when you finally kind of got your moveset to a point where you're happy with, and you go back and absolutely wipe the floor with them, it's amazing. But like,
I will say, we're not just talking about the World Tour. I will very briefly say I love the extreme modes. I think that's really clever. And again, another sort of smart idea. Like, if the whole game feels like just a complete response to what came before it. Like, not an apology, but kind of an apology. Kind of we get it.
That way.
It's like the whole game just feels like they just nailed it. Like, they have just absolutely nailed it in every way. I just don't know what more I'd want. If you know what I mean. If someone said to me, well, what if you could add something to it? I don't know what, like, you know, the first time I played it, like, I was like, oh, well, sometimes I don't want to really go to that battle hub and wander around and sit down at an arcade. By the way, there are full arcade games in here. Street Fighter 2 is in there, and they're going to rotate them. Final Fight is in here, they're going to rotate these games. But sometimes I thought to myself, I don't want to go to just battle hub, wander around as my avatar and all this, that, and the other. You don't have to. You can just go to fighting ground mode and just select multiplayer and match make that way as well. So they've even thought of that. Like, I really have very, very little criticism of Street Fighter 6. Very little criticism. Like, I'm not saying, it's the perfect game, but I don't know what more I would want.
No, it's like, I never would have I would never have wanted World Tour.
No, that's what who was asking for that? No one was asking for that.
Yeah, exactly. And now it's in there. It's like, it's great. And like you said, I haven't really thought about it being a tutorial.
I know, it definitely is.
For the future. Because obviously, when a game comes out with story mode and you've done the story mode, you can go and replay it, but there's not a lot to do afterwards unless there is some kind of end game stuff. But a lot of single players, it's just like, right, well, there you go. Whereas this is like, you know, you play this and you have learned a lot through the tutorial. Then you go and take it online for you know, and play all these like fight somewhere around the world, and it's kind of giving you the keys to the kingdom of like, this is how you play. Now go off and improve yourself. And like, it's a very smart idea. And you have a lot of fun doing it. And like, there's like the history of Street Fighter, the history of Final Fight, and how those two games tie together. Like the characters you meet from the original Street Fighter, the original Final Fight, like the whole being named after Hager, like the arena, he was the mayor of Metro City. It's like little nods here and there. There's nods to the whole franchise. It's just like, if you have been playing Street Fighter for years, it's great. If you're new to it, it's equally fantastic because it feels like a new game. They could have done that thing where they just called it Street Fighter.
Where
a lot of games do that, like Mortal Kombat are doing that.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be Street Fighter 6, but it is a brand new game. They have reset the series by looking at Street Fighter 5 and going, yeah, we didn't approach that correctly. It was very bare bones. We tried adding to it, but it never felt like a complete game because of the kind of weird launch. We're not going to do that again. We're going to give everyone a complete game the moment they turn it on, and it feels like that in every way.
The other thing I'd say is, like, because they've said the DLC characters are going to be incorporated into World Tour, so like the first character then will get like a side mission where you probably get a cutscene and you can mentor under them. Like that, again, they could have just not. The World Tour is there and it's fine, and DLC season passes with characters coming is just what fighting games do. It's how you keep people coming back. But the fact they have said they're going to do that is meant that I will continue to go back to World Tour every time a new character's released to get their moveset and get them as my mentor. And I'm enamored with the game. I just still a surprise to me that they delivered on this. But we can also talk about another big game, Diablo 4.
Yes.
How excited are you about Diablo 4?
I can't tell you. I can't tell you how excited. This when we were doing the pod, I think along with Mick, this was the game bar Spider-Man 2.
Yes.
This was the game of the year where I was like, yeah, this is going to be where I'll be spending a lot of my time with.
Huh. Okay. No pressure. No, I'm joking. Like, it's just when you've been fridge fighting in Street Fighter 6, like Diablo 4 is a really, really good game, right? A really good game. I didn't finish it for reasons we'll talk about probably in the next pod, I reckon. But I did get a good way into it, and I really enjoyed the video game aspect of it. I enjoyed the Diablo-ness of it. I do find it hard to ignore some of the stuff around it, if that makes sense. For example, I don't like that it's always online, and I don't understand why they've made that decision. Like, I did not play, aside just trying multiplayer, obviously for review purposes with Mick, I did not play Diablo 4 online. Well, no, I did, because it is only online. I mean, I didn't play it
with other people.
And I wouldn't. And whether it's Diablo 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, I would always play that first story adventure solo. Always, and probably them subsequent playthroughs and characters or co-op after that. Yeah, sure. If it was on the cards, it doesn't serve the player. If that makes sense, like the always online aspect doesn't serve the player. It only serves one thing, and that's the almighty dollar. And I don't like it. I don't like the fact that I was playing it and getting rubber banding while playing a single player adventure. I don't like the fact that I had issues when, to be fair, pre-release servers, so we don't know, but also. We kind of do know because this has happened before with Blizzard games where they will launch and the servers are hammered. I don't like the fact that I'm playing in a pre-release review environment, and so there's probably less than 100 people playing, and I still see queuing. So you load the game up and then you queue to log in. It was seconds, like not even, because obviously there's no one was online. And then I don't like the fact that I have to select my character and then queue to log in. I'm not playing with anyone. Why am I queuing for anything? I don't like it. Yeah. I'm going to say that now. I don't like the fact that, like I say, when it was having issues with servers, I was a druid, mage, smashing me electric stuff at people, and some attacks just wouldn't come out because like it was lagging, and then I would suddenly reverse back a few meters on the screen. It doesn't serve the player. It just doesn't. And that annoys the shit out of me. the game itself is fantastic. Like the skill trees are incredibly deep. There's so much you can do in terms of that. I will say they've taken some things. It's interesting with Diablo. Diablo 3 was amazing. I didn't get on with the Diablo 2 Resurrected, but then I wasn't like a Diablo fan back then, so it wasn't for me, I guess. So Diablo 3 would have been my favourite modern one. Immortal wasn't for me, really. Like, I remember in Diablo 3, you could bring up a map overlay on the game screen. Does that make sense? It's hard to do.
Yeah.
Like, so you had like 3 levels of map, didn't you? You had the map on the screen in the corner, you had the map which just filled the screen, and then you had the map which was like translucent over the gameplay. They've removed that. And I don't know why. I know it was a new thing, I think, for 3, but like it was a good thing for 3. And it's this weird little stuff like that that's like, well, it's been really difficult, right, to try and not compare what Street Fighter 6 has done as a sequel compared to what Diablo 4 has done as a sequel, because Street Fighter 6 is like the example of how you throw the kitchen sink at something, and while Diablo 4's like got this amazingly beefy single player adventure mode to it, like and the story's good and the cutscenes are so good. Blizzard know how to do cutscenes well, and the story's genuinely interesting. I can't talk about it any more than that at this stage. I don't want to spoil it. Is it a bad thing that I feel like it's more Diablo? I mean, Diablo's great, right? So that's...
Yeah, I think the time it's been since Diablo 3 as well, I think you fair to think that there should be more than what you've got.
Yeah. Like, because I didn't experience the end game, so it's important to say that, because that is the end. I mean, there feels like there is really 2 types of Diablo players. If that makes sense. Like, Mick is one and I'm kind of the other. I will play through it as a story, and then I'll play it bits and pieces with people like yourself and Chris Hyde, and you know, and that's how I'll play it. Mick will, like the hardcore Diablo fans, will sort of smash through it and spend time in the end game and min-max builds and blah blah blah. And I think this game's for those people, because like there are actually full mechanics that I didn't get, because the tutorializing is like practically non-existent, because they just assume you know what that means because it's Diablo 4. And again, it's really hard to not compare it when you're like, well, Street Fighter's got a whole mode here that's amazing, but also teaching, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I really tried not to compare the 2 in my head, but I can't help it because I was playing the 2 of them at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, look, I think Diablo 4 is really good. Like, Mick gave it a 9. I would have probably gone 8. I think Diablo 4 is a really great game, and I'm going to have a lot of fun with it playing with people later. But it just feels like maybe some of the stuff... I don't get why they did it. Like, I don't get why they make it always online. Like, it just seems like one of those decisions someone had and they went, that's a way we can do this, that, and the other. It's like, yeah, okay, but what about how much it'll piss people off and upset people because it seems so unnecessary to half the audience who just want to play a single-player adventure game with dungeon crawling? And it's just really peculiar to me. It feels like 2 games at the same time. I will say I really did enjoy like every element of what I played in terms of mechanically, gameplay-wise. Like I say, some of it I missed because like the tutorial would pop up on screen so quickly, and I was like, I didn't get that at all, because I also leveled up and I also picked up 6 items of loot, and I don't, what's going on? It does do that a bit. That's fine. You know, you can always learn things later, and I really like the skill tree system. And I will say, right, from someone who used to play PC games with mouse and keyboard, it's really weird how Diablo's now, like, it feels like a controller game. It just feels better. It feels better as a controller game now to me than it does. I played a bit on PC, and I did it with mouse and keyboard, and I was like, no, I think I'm just going to pick up a controller and play it like that. And then I went back to the PlayStation version. It's a really good game. I know I sound down on it, and I'm not. I'm really looking forward to playing more of it. It's a really good game. But it's kind of does that thing for me where, you know, when you're really excited about something, but there's like a really negative thing that comes with it, and it's really hard to shake that feeling.
Yeah,
it's got that. Like I can't just go but it is what it is. It just bugs me that it's always online. It really does.
I think like for me with Diablo 3, I played it when it came out, and I did what I needed to do. I didn't play a lot online when it came out originally with anyone else. And then during COVID, when we were all stuck at home, me and my best mate went back to it and literally played hundreds of hours of it, and just like we went into the deepest parts of the end game. So like for me, that's hopefully where I'll be spending my time with it here. So I don't agree with it always being online at all, but I probably will spend most of my time online playing it. But that's not, a lot of people won't be doing that.
Well, I don't know. This is the thing, I don't know. I can only sort of really speak to myself and like what you've said and what Mick said. I mean, Mick is that person as well, so that's 2 out of 3 people who will. So maybe I'm the odd one out. I don't know. I really do quite like how much effort they've put into the story. Like I like that, a bit like World Tour, again, just comparing it again, but a bit like how they didn't have to, but did anyway. I do like the effort there. There are some oddities with it, like that. You know, you could, when you finish a dungeon, for example, you can just use the radial menu and skip out, because you don't want to walk all the way back through the dungeon. You've just got to the end. And there was like a weird bit, like at the end of Act 1, where I couldn't, and I had to walk through, and because it was a bespoke, well, I think it was, because a lot of it is generated, but because it was a bespoke dungeon, I think, because it was a story-based boss dungeon, it was the end of Act 1, I think, it wouldn't let me teleport back out, and there was nothing to fight, so it was like just walking through emptiness. But that only happened once, and it was weird. It stood out because it was once. The gear system is terrific. Like there's so much you can do, and I actually also like there's a world renown thing that I think is new, and I'll probably get shouted at in the comments if it's not. But basically, by exploring the certain, like there's the map is just a huge map, and it's fucking huge, by the way. Like it is huge. Good. Like we're talking like the Act 1 region is big, and then you zoom out and you're like, oh my god, and then you zoom out and you realise, oh, I can't zoom all the way out, it's that big. It's one of those maps. And there are things like so discovering locations will add to your renown, for example, the overall renown meter, and each there's like I want to say 4 or 5 levels per area, so you level, and there's rewards for it, so you get like a bunch of XP. But for example, you might get a skill point by getting to level 2 renown, so you get extra skill point just for doing that, and that's like I say, that's via discovery. And another thing they do is like there's altars of Lilith that are permanent buffs. Now these things are bastards to find, right? Some of them are really like I found like 4 or 5 at first, and I was like, I got this. This is easy. Just clear the fog. But then Mick said to me the other day, well, the 2 I found early on, they were indoors, and I'm like, sorry, they can be indoors.
Right.
Okay. That's why I'm not finding some, because they're obviously in the dungeons that I hadn't done yet, because they're optional. Loads of optional dungeons. And like, so finding I think it was like 5 or 6 altars will add to the renown to get you up to level 1, level 2. So there's all this stuff to do that is just about exploring and finding.
Yeah.
But also these altars give you permanent buffs. Like one of them I found, which was great, boosted, like basically it meant so that every time an enemy died, it would drop gold. Like almost every enemy would drop gold all the time, always, which meant I was getting gold a lot quicker. So they do that sort of thing. Like one will give you a boost to, I don't know, like how quickly you do something else, like how quickly you recover or whatever. So all these altars are well worth finding. And again, it was only when I realised, because I saw, I think Act 1, the area, it was like, well, I didn't know this at the time, I should say. It was like, oh, you found 6 of 24. And I'm like, 24, that's not that much. And then when I got to like Act 2 and I realised, oh, there's 24 in that region, and I haven't found any in this region yet. Oh, okay. So, like, you know, there is a lot to do in this game, like a lot. Just aside and there's so many optional dungeons. There's world events, which are all. I didn't involve myself in every single one of them, but I will say every single one of them I did was different. I mean, they all involve, you know, combat.
Yeah, fine.
But like from one there was like this big boss fight. One was like I had to follow around like a little spectral guy who was getting attacked while he was trying to move to the other side, and I had to protect him. You know, so like all this variation. There is a lot. They've built a really cool video game. They have, and I wanted to say all that because I want to balance it out a bit. And I'm like, I really want to play more. Like, excuse me. They've said, you know, for example, that all reviewers playing, and this is true, that would have their characters and stuff wiped. So the reason I didn't go and finish it was purely because it was like, well, I'm going to get super invested. I know I will. I'll get super invested in my character, my build, and love it. And then it's gone. Whereas Mick, because he was actually reviewing the game, obviously went through it, saw the end game, multiple characters, blah, blah, blah. So I was able to sort of choose not to do that. But if I hadn't, if that wasn't happening, I would have finished it, and I would have kept playing it probably with new characters, because I want to see the necromancer stuff and the barbarian stuff. Mick was describing like the weapon proficiency and all this weird stuff that I didn't see as a mage. I want to see all that.
You wouldn't be doing it.
No, that's exactly it. Like the barbarian stuff sounds crazy. Like I don't even want to paraphrase. It was something like when you get to a certain level, it's like something like you can hold all types of weapon at once or something. And wow. I like I said, I didn't play it. I played mainly as a mage. But because I spent most of my time just trying to find waypoints and unlocking fast travels and trying to find altars of Lilith. And when I did find one, by the way, that was like, it looked like a tree in among trees, I'm like, you devious bastards. And it's going to be one of those where I want to find them all. And then I say, when I realised Act 2, I thought I'd found 6 of all 24, and then I realised, no, it was 6 of 24 in that area. I was like, oh, you bastards. So yeah, like Diablo 4 is superb, does have issues. I can't predict the future. I'd probably bet a small fortune on the fact that there will be issues with launch in terms of queue times and stuff. I hope I'm wrong. I really do, because again, it's one of those things that bothers me, that when you're spending 60, 70 quid on a video game, you should be able to just play it, especially if you just want to play it on your own. Like, it just seems a shame. The other thing, I want to mention, They told us basically that when you're in towns, you'll see other players. The ghostly kind. Now, people will have seen this in the betas. That didn't occur to me because, of course, we're playing in a review sort of program early on, and so there weren't hundreds and thousands of people playing. But what they did say is, while you might see people in the towns, you tend to not see them as much out in the world, which I can't say is true because I didn't see anybody.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. But the idea that you would see all these people walking around would be immersion breaking a bit for me, and this kind of I'm the adventurer going up against the evils and stuff. So hopefully that's true.
I never like that in games anyway. No, like when I played Elder Scrolls Online, and you're in the middle of a mission, and there's all these people just running around, and
and you're like, this is my adventure. Why are you?
I agree with that.
This is the other thing. Like, why can't they just have made it so that you can play in offline mode, but it disables the shop and any online play? Like, if that's, just make that an option. Like, I don't know. I'm not going to keep going on about it because what's the point? There is another game I want to talk to you about this week, and I haven't played it, but I really do want to talk about it because we don't get you on as often as we'd like, and you have reviewed and played, obviously, the Lord of the Rings Gollum. What the shit what happened? Like, I was trying to put together some of the footage for this so people can watch it, and it just seems like there's one bit where you just keep dying over and over again, and I knew that's not you. That's not right.
No, like, so I don't know how it was put out in this state. And I hate it when...
No, I know. I'm with you.
I hate it when you're looking forward to a game and you know how hard people work on games.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, they didn't go, this is going to annoy people, let's just put it out, who cares,
Yes.
They clearly care about it. And you can see that they do care about it in the way, the story. And I've seen a lot of people go, why do we need a Gollum game? Why do we get an Aragorn game?
Before the game was out, that seemed to be the thing. Like, people were like,
wow, Gollum, why Gollum? He's integral to the third age of Lord of the Rings, like the trilogy, The Hobbit. He's a fascinating character. He's responsible for holding on to the One Ring, and that's how Bilbo gets it. And then subsequently Frodo, and that's. Without him, those films wouldn't be as interesting. And so that's the first thing. Andy Serkis, obviously, is a great actor, but he was, in today's kind of day and age, that elevated him to a level he would never have been elevated to before. And his portrayal of Gollum and Smeagol, because they're two separate people, was phenomenal. And now this game, it's not based on the film. Obviously, it's not based on the film. It's based on the book. But what I mean is they're not getting characters who voiced or acted in the films to come back for this game. It's from the book. So there's a new voice actor for Gollum. But because it's so ingrained in people's brains, it's so ingrained in my brain to expect to hear Andy Serkis, it's such a it's jarring hearing someone else do it.
Is it like he's not? Is it like the Avengers thing? Is it like
yes? Is it like that? Absolutely. Yeah. It is absolutely like that. And whilst he's not bad, like the act, it's a good actor.
Just not him.
It's just I don't hear this. It's just weird. So that's one thing. But that's me. That's a personal thing, I think.
Yeah,
when it comes to like the gameplay, because that is obviously where it's like one of the play areas where it's faulting. It's you never feel comfortable, or you never feel like you're fully in control of what's going on. Like you're never confident that what you do will succeed, because
like watching you play it, people will be able to watch it. If you don't know, by the way, go to youtube.com/GodIsAGeek and you can find the video version of this pod. Watching you control Gollum, I know you can play video games, but it makes it look like you.
No,
you know what I mean? It's like it just looks awkward.
It's horrible. Like there's a lot in so. The main kind of areas of gameplay in Gollum, there's a lot of climbing and traversal through Barad-dûr, the Dark Tower, you know, where Sauron resides, and there's Mirkwood as well, which is obviously integral to the series. You do a lot of climbing and a lot of swinging and stuff like that off certain poles, and it all plays together. So you do it in certain patterns and certain orders, but sometimes jumping and swinging off the poles, if you don't get it exactly right, you just fall to your death. Sometimes you don't grip as you should. The actual kind of like wherever you're looking to jump, you can make mistakes without being intentional. You know, people know how to play games. It's so like it's not fluid. It's not fluid, and it's not. You never feel like you're going to get to the top of a tower or top of an area comfortably. You always like you might fall off, you might drop without even meaning to. Like one of the things that bugged me about it is that you'll be climbing up something and then you don't know where else to go. But that's because the next platform is behind you, but you don't see it because the viewpoint is literally right up his arse. So a little option will come up at the bottom saying jump backwards. So it's like, all right, okay, so I'm jumping backwards. And then you jump backwards, and then you have to physically turn the camera to then look at that platform. And it's just weird. And like the stealth elements, which there are like the AI is just poor. Like you have to like sometimes you have to distract an orc by throwing like a rock at the ground or a rock at something that will bang. And like the amount of times I'd throw a rock right in front of an orc and he'd like you wouldn't even twig, you wouldn't even notice. And then I'd finally get his attention and he'd like look round and then be like, oh, and then that's it. Sometimes he's very aggressive and he'll run straight towards you, even though you don't know where you are. You know, there are like a lot of shadowy areas where you can go and like hide and they can't see you. But it feels like they're either really smart and they'll find you straight away, or it's just redundant. It just feels like there's a lot of like arbitrary elements of the gameplay as well. Like there's like a companion thing where you can get this little bird who becomes your companion, especially like in the first kind of area. And it's like you need to send him to go and get some keys to be able to unlock something. And so you'll control him. So you press like square to control your companion, and then the keys are already highlighted. So it's not like you have to find them. So you'll control them, then they appear blue because that's where they are. Then you press another button, set him to go and get them and bring them back. It's not like you have to go and find them or do anything other than that. It's just already there. It's already present. So there's no real challenge there, and it just feels pointless. You have to like guide someone as well but you can't just freely guide them. There's only like 4 spots where you can send them to, and it's just
every bit of the game that I've seen where you're playing it. It's like I can almost hear you going, "Where do you want me to go?" Like I don't know. Did you see? I don't know if I can think of another time this has happened, but did you see the developers actually sent out like an apology to people who obviously played it?
No.
They got the name of the game wrong in their apology. They called it the Lord of Ring Gollum, I think it was. So they actually in the the kind of social media image where it's all typed out. And listen, Jesus Christ, humans make mistakes, and I imagine the amount of stress they must be under with this. This is a big property. Someone's probably shouting at them somewhere. You know what I mean? This is the Lord of the Rings. Someone is it's not all right. It's not quite Avengers level or Disney, but someone is probably shouting at that developer a lot. And I don't want to have a go because of like they made a typo. Someone made a typo and it didn't, and then someone made a mistake proofreading it. It was probably frantic. It was probably like they were frantically just trying to get something out there to be like, look, we know, sorry. But like it does kind of sum it up a bit, and it's like I don't know. It just did they maybe, I don't know whether it's developer or publisher level, but did someone not quite remember or realise how beloved Lord of the Rings is? And think they could not get away with it. That's not what I mean. You know what I mean? Like,
it does feel that way. Like the like I said, the story is actually quite good. Like it is quite interesting, and they do touch upon a lot of areas that isn't covered in the books. Like it's always alluded to, like where Gandalf went, and when he met Gollum, and you don't really find out about that. It doesn't really go into detail. It just touches upon it. Like there's a lot of interesting stuff there, and they have stayed true. Like the lore masters at this studio have obviously studied the source material very well, so that's a good thing about it. But when you don't get to experience that story in a fun way, what's the point? Like the kind of technical problems, like the glitching, it's so janky. It's so all over the place when it goes from cutscene to gameplay to loading screen. It does that thing where you watch a cutscene and then it'll go back to the gameplay and you're stood behind Gollum for like a split second. And it'll go into a cutscene, not like some smooth transition. It's just all over the place. And like, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of like dialogue just cuts out straight away. And if you don't have the subtitles up, you don't know what's been said.
Ouch.
There's like Gollum's mouth just doesn't move and he's talking and you're like, all right, it's all of this all together, and like that's not going to be fixed in a patch. Maybe not even 2 or 3. Like there's something inherently rotten at this core of this game, and it's sad because I feel like Tolkien is one of the, if not the greatest fantasy writers. Well, he is. His world is fascinating, and there are developers out there who have done a fantastic job with. Like, Shadow of War is a phenomenal attempt at Middle Earth. Like, and whether that's the story or the gameplay, whatever, that's faithful to me. And like that, it can be done, and like it just feels like I don't know, they're besmirching the great legacy of an icon and a writer that is loved by millions the world over. And it's just one game, and people might never play it, but the fans of Lord of the Rings, who are gamers as well, will be like, oh, this could be great. And it really isn't.
Well, speaking of besmirching legacies, it's time for listener correspondence, so I'll play the jingle even though he's not here, shall I?
Listener correspondence. It's time. Chris, hi.
Well, he may not be here, but we have a Chris here. So, Chris, take it away, mate. Do some listener correspondence for us, please. We haven't got a lot this week, to be fair, have we? So.
No. So, listener correspondence for this week. So, Adam, this is for you.
Yeah, sorry, I've forgotten to write on the doc here. These are from Mick, from my regular questioner.
Mick with his questions, yeah. So, Tears of the Kingdom or Street Fighter 6, Which of the two is your? I suppose is your favourite. Which one would you pick first?
Well, before I do answer, can I ask you? Because you've played a bit of Tears, haven't you?
Yes. Yeah.
But probably this is unfair, but based on what you know of those two games and me, do you think this is supposed to be a hard question? Because I don't think it's a hard question. I think I could just go bang and there's the answer and we can move on. But do you think it's supposed to be a hard question?
I think, I don't think I need to play more at this stage to know what I would say.
Yeah, it's Tears of the Kingdom for me. Like it's
ridiculous.
Like I'm still booting up Tears of the Kingdom. Like still doing bits and pieces. Like just chipping away at little bits. Like
I love the position that I'm in. That I've still got Diablo 4 to play. I've still not finished Street Fighter 6, and Tears of the Kingdom is there.
Wow, what a world!
What a world! Yeah. And Tears of the Kingdom is ridiculous. Like I can't say what hasn't already been said. There's obviously a lot of stuff from the first where you're familiar with, but then the whole building is, oh my god! And then all the new abilities, it's just fair play to Nintendo.
Yeah,
it's not a difficult question.
It's not.
But but then that shows you how good Tears of the Kingdom is, because Street Fighter 6 is.
I think that's what he's getting at, because we have talked about this actually a little bit in text messages, that like it's amazing that Street Fighter 6 is in my top 10 right now, and it will be. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not spoiling Game of the Year stuff by saying that. I think it's obvious.
Yeah.
And I think that's crazy, because it's rare that these kind of I want to call. I'm thinking Forza Horizon 5 might have been one where you and I would have fought for it quite hard, but what I would consider I don't want to say niche, because it's a racing game, like Street Fighter is a fighting game. These are kind of the core tenets of gaming a lot of the time, but they are not mainstream in the way that perhaps Zelda might be. And I think it's rare, but I'll stop rambling. It's Tears of the Kingdom if I have to pick one. Sorry, it just is.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Next question. Is there any game out this year that's been announced that we know is coming, that you think will come close to Street Fighter 6, Tears of the Kingdom, or Octopath 2?
Yeah, I think Final Fantasy 16.
Oh, jeez, I wasn't even thinking that.
I think that's.
I was thinking another game, but yeah, I think you're right.
I think Final Fantasy 16's got a really big chance. Like we also forget, and I don't know if he's remembered or this is why he's asked this. Of my top two of all time, I've always maintained there's two games, and one of them's a Final Fantasy game. So I love that series. So I think if he's asking for me personally, I think Final Fantasy 16's got especially because I was supposed to go to the preview event and I didn't. Something came up, I couldn't make it. And I'm really gutted, because everything I've read about it since has been like, oh yeah, it's still Final Fantasy, but it's kind of also got Devil May Cry style combat, and I'm like, sorry, what?
Like the trailer that they played at the PlayStation showcase. Like, I'm trying really hard to not read anything about it.
Yeah.
Because I know that I would love this game. Like it looks ridiculous. Like it does, and I think like when Final Fantasy 15 came out, whilst it wasn't incredible, like everyone. Oh no, I don't know, because it was really good. I don't know. I think this one looks more appealing to me. It's gone a bit darker, a bit more like Devil May Cry. The fighting.
Got a hero called Clive. Don't forget. The main guy's called Clive, and that still tickles me.
10 out of 10.
Yeah.
But I was thinking Spider-Man 2.
Can you think of a famous Clive apart from Clive Sinclair?
Clive Owen.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. Clive Owen.
There can't be many. I can't think of many.
No. Clive Owen.
Yeah, okay, no, I'll give you that. That's good.
And Clive from Final Fantasy 16 now. He's entered the halls of Clive. Fair play.
Yep.
But I would say Spider-Man 2 will be in my top 5 come the end of the year. Well, maybe.
We didn't talk about... I mean, none of us have talked about that showcase much. In fact, I know you, Cindy, because you posted the news story for it. I was kind of blown away that they just start showing gameplay and it's just like, yeah, he's got Venom powers. And I'm like, sorry, did I miss a meeting? I think I missed a meeting somewhere where suddenly he's a symbiote as well. And like, obviously, I know they probably, thinking about it later, they probably like, we don't want to show... That's probably mid-game or something, that bit.
We know that something to do with the symbiote is in it, because I mean, in that teaser trailer they released, I don't know if I can't remember if Venom was in it or the symbiote was definitely in it. But but in my head it was like, oh, Venom's going to be in it. But then when
there's a story just come out saying there's like 9 or 11 villains or something in it, and it's going to be in it, which makes it sound, I don't know. I'm with you. I feel like everyone shits on those games. It's like they're fucking great fun. They're so fun.
My mate, I had an argument with him. He was saying, "Oh, it's just on rails." When you play that game, that exact setup will happen to you, and you know what I mean. Like the bit where he's swinging, he's like, "You're just going to play that," but it was like alluding to it being a quick time. You're still playing it, and even in taking that segment out of it, the bit in the warehouse and the bit like where you're stealthing it and you can choose to approach situations differently. They've added so many little bits that make it look awesome, like the firing the zip line so you can walk across a line.
I forgot all about that. That was cool as hell. How you
can like pick up 2 enemies at the same time, and like the whole wind tunnels in Queens and Brooklyn
But they answered like every question I had about it in that gameplay. That's the thing as well. Because my biggest concern was like, well, we've had Miles, and whether you prefer Miles or Peter as a character is kind of irrelevant to me, because it's like Miles giving him those powers that he had made him more fun to play as a video game. So it's like, well, hang on, now we're going to go back, and we all kind of, I think, knew that there was going to be some sort of GTA style switch between, but the fact that they literally just went, well, yeah, but now Peter's got this. Oh, and also you can do this, like you say, the zipline walking. It's like they because we know it's going to be set where it's going to be set roughly. I'm sure there'll be some surprises, and so it's like you've got to accept that is where Peter is. But the biggest one for me was like, well, mechanically, how are you going to make it more interesting after you went Miles?
Yeah,
and like straight away they're like, yeah, like this. Yeah, okay, cool, fine, I'm in. And I don't need to see that game again until I can play it. I don't think.
No, I'm fine with not seeing it. I think they've got it. They've got it in the bag. Like, it's going to be great. The stuff from them.
It's just like this rewriting of history, man, where people it happens with certain games. People forgotten how fun Spider-Man and Miles Morales were to actually physically play with a control in your hand. Like how right they got the swinging for the first time. If people just enjoy shitting on, I don't know, like just not the time.
No, I know. Well, I suppose you kind of answered this in a roundabout way, but is Diablo 4 worth £70 day one, or wait for a sale or potential fixes?
I think it's a good enough game to buy it. However, I will add the caveat, assuming there are no major issues that last longer than I mean, it's difficult for us because we get to play stuff pre-release, but I think there's enough to play that if it's hard to get access to for the first couple of days, and maybe pick it up on a Monday. I mean, maybe just go in knowing that they'll just caveat, as long as you can actually play it. So maybe wait a couple of days. Yeah. In terms of fixes, I don't think there's much major that they will need to fix that they hadn't already actually told us going in. Know that these are bugs that will be fixed for day one. And of course, because that is one thing, it is always online, so it's not like you're not going to experience the issues that Mick and I had before they patched the review build, because it's an online game. So I would say in terms of that respect, if you really want to play it, I mean, you probably know already if you're going to buy Diablo 4 or not.
Yeah, I think so. What platform will you be playing Street Fighter 6 on post-launch?
All of them, probably. Whichever's in my hand nearest at the time. Probably PlayStation. So all of them.
So I'm following on to that. Did you end up getting any fight sticks?
2. There's one, if you're watching the video version over I can't remember how to do it on camera, just there. It's a different camera that Chris is in, but if you're watching the podcast, there's a Nacon fight stick down there that is tremendous, and I'll be reviewing very soon. It's really good. I mean, they're not cheap, but there's buttons on the side that you can lift the case open, and inside it comes with a spare knob and all the fixings and stuff, so you can actually adjust the buttons and change them if you want to. It all comes with it. And I also have a Hori pad for Xbox. It's not the Street Fighter pad, but it's just got a different face on it. It's the same pad, fight stick, sorry. Yeah. And that as well will be coming soon. So that may be a little bit later, because that actually only arrived today as we record. So
awesome.
Yeah.
No, cool. That was a next question. When can we expect review? So
yeah, soon. Very soon.
Yeah. Why is Lyle not on the pod?
Diarrhea.
Yeah.
Really seriously bad. Yeah, really bad.
All over the walls.
Yeah.
He did it in his. He shit himself.
Yeah,
it's embarrassing. We didn't want us to say anything, but well, you guys deserve the truth.
Yeah. No, and that was made clear a few weeks ago on the pod that we have to be forthright about why people aren't on it. And it is, Chris is on holiday, but Lyle has severe diarrhea.
Yeah. Get better soon, Lyle.
Yeah.
And finally, can you make Mick review Opie Academy?
Don't know what that is. Guessing it's a pervert game. Probably can't make him.
I would say so.
I can't make him do that. That's got to be something. This
He'll
is the thing.
While
Lyle's not here, I can say this. I never force anyone to review any of those kind of games, but when people want to do it, I'm not going to stop them.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
You've got some questions as well.
Yes.
I think you kind of answered the first two, sort of, really. But the first one is, how bad is the Precious?
Bad.
Yeah. And will you be playing Final Fantasy 16? Which yeah.
100%.
But the main question. Go on.
Sorry, I just keep like this. Last year was a bit weird, wasn't it? Because it was bookended. Whereas this, it's like, oh my god, there's just constantly like games.
Summer of games, man. June has I know we've played them, but June has Diablo, Final Fantasy 16, and Street Fighter 6. They are the release dates are in June. All three of those games.
Yeah, and that, even like some of the smaller games, like I haven't talked about it because I wasn't like able to get on when it came out. But stuff like Tin Hearts.
Yeah.
Oh, what a game! Like little get like Humanity, like these kind of smaller games coming out around all these big releases. There's just so much fantastic stuff out there. But yes, I'm 100% going to be playing Final Fantasy 16.
This one's quite interesting to me because I think there's more buzz around this game than I realise because I'm not into wrestling. But what thoughts have you got on AEW's release date and what you're going to play it on?
So I think this is fantastic news. Like really, really good for wrestling fans and for wrestling fans who love games, because like WWE, I think forever it will be the top brand of wrestling because of the money they've got for it and the reach it's got across the world. And whilst there have been times where the product has been poor, it feels now it's been on quite a rise in recent, like certainly in the last year and a half. But AEW, like their journey from a small group of wrestlers from and friends and a guy who had a lot of money, but who was also like a wrestling fan from being young, created this company. They never knew how it was going to go, and that was like 4 or 5 years ago. Now they've just booked Wembley. They're going to appear at Wembley Stadium. They've got a massive fan base. They've now got a product which is incredibly fun to watch. A lot of younger talent that would never have found it. And they might have, but like they've got a platform now. And I think the actual product of AEW is fantastic. And this game itself is it's like No Mercy. It's like WrestleMania 2000 on the N64. Like it's made by Ukes. It's.
Oh, so I wanted to ask you about that because Ukes were the WWE game developer, weren't they?
Mm.
But do you does that excite or concern you, or a bit of column A, a bit of column B?
Sure, I'm trying not to let it concern me because
I wonder if they knew this because I want to say they've been developing this quite a while, right?
It was announced a long time ago.
So is it possible that they were putting all their? I don't want to say that because that sounds nasty. But did they know? Hang on, they're going to shift us off WWE because that was 2 years ago. Visual Concepts have had 2 now, haven't they?
Yeah,
but didn't Ukes help with? I can't remember.
I honestly can't remember, but I think the amount of times that Tony Khan and AEW have surprised me with something in the last 4 years. We should be concerned because of the developers and this stuff. It obviously doesn't look the same because it's not going for realism; it's going for fun, and that to me is what I miss from wrestling games. Like it's all about simulation and like you're the manager, you're controlling the pay-per-views and the profits and the gains, and then you're building your own universe. Like the the rosters on SmackDown and Raw and whatnot. So before you're actually playing, you're doing all the legwork to put the events on. Whereas this, it's like a street fight. You just pick 2 fighters and then go at it. And I think the actual it will be how it feels to play, which will make or break this game. It won't matter to me what you can do outside of the actual ring. It will be what goes on in there. And from what I've seen, it does look a lot of fun. But there is a concern because of the way it looks. Because you can't help but judge something on the way it looks. Like, does that mean it won't play well because it doesn't look as polished as other games? Like,
I mean,
Gollum.
my favourite is Royal Rumble from the SNES era. And I mean, if you were to show that to someone now who's a younger wrestling fan, they'd look at you and think you were mad. But like, you can still also make great wrestling games. I mean, not, they make SmackDown and.
If it's basically like what Tony Hawk's did with Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 on the modern consoles and made it feel like you were playing the old games, except it wasn't bulky, it was the smoothest experience possible. If they've done that and brought like No Mercy to present day and then made it not janky and not clunky and made it feel modern, then it has a lot of potential.
Also, I find it fascinating it's called AEW Fight Forever and not AEW Fight Forever 2023. Like, that suggests to me.
I think they are going for because they are doing DLC characters. They're bringing new characters to it, and I think if they do that, that's amazing. That's amazing because the roster's constantly changing. There's always someone new coming along. People do leave, unfortunately, but their roster is ever expanding. They've just announced a new show. So they've now got 3. They'll now have like 3 televised shows all week. You know, it's a ever expanding company, and the game itself will hopefully do that by introducing like the new show, like AEW Collision that plays on like a Saturday night. I think it starts on June the 17th. Now they're going to hopefully constantly add to it because the company's expanding. So should the game. And if it's good, people play it, then brilliant.
I mean, there are some pretty interesting quotes doing the rounds. Like, I didn't realize this, but apparently, I'm going to butcher this, but Hideyuki Iwashita is involved, and he was the director of No Mercy, which is, I believe, one of the games people loved, isn't it? And apparently, Hiromi Furata, who is the senior producer at Ukes, has basically said that WWF No Mercy is a key influence, and that Fight Forever, the AEW game, is not intended to rival the 2K series. So that does. I mean, they're certainly saying the right words there, aren't they?
I don't think it is because they're not stupid. Like they know
money-wise,
the 2K series, they can't compete. The fan base of that, they can't compete. They're not catering for fans. They're catering for their fans. They're fans of their shows, their product. That they want to make a game where people who love watching AEW will love playing AEW. You know, the roster that's, I don't know if it's official or whether or not it is, but the actual, there was a lot of like wondering if they're going to have current, like most recent like signees or the last few months, because there were wrestlers that weren't allegedly involved, and it was a bit like that made people worry about it. And then there was this whole issue with a wrestler called CM Punk. It basically like just destroyed the public image, not destroy the public image, but there was always like a sense of unity within AEW and that everyone was friends and everyone got on. And then this wrestler kind of had a massive like at a press conference just blew up, and then it really like dented that reputation. So there was a lot of worry, but at its core, it's a solid foundation. The company is great. The wrestling that they put on is great. You know, it has its dips and troughs like any show or
any sport.
But at its heart, it's such a wonderful wrestling company. It's given people an alternative, and that's why people appreciate it, because not everyone wants to watch WWE. As good as it is and can be, this is very separate. It's very different, but it's just lovely kind of time to be a wrestling fan, and this game looks fun, and that's what I want. I just want to play a wrestling game where I just have fun.
He does say, "What will you play it on?" But
whatever I get it on.
Yeah, I mean, you'll be reviewing it, I would imagine. So it's like probably whatever.
I'll take it on whatever. It's coming to all of the like PS5, Xbox.
Apparently
series.
Switch as well, which I don't know if that's definite. But that's what I just had a quick look on the Wikipedia. But
yeah, I've heard that. But I mean, hopefully we get the
Switch version. Yeah. Right, time to play that jingle. Time to play the jingle.
Chris Hyde, listener correspondence. It's time. It's time. Chris Hyde.
Well, thank you very much to Chris White for doing Chris Hyde's listener correspondence there. And that's about it for a podcast this week, actually. Some big hitters. I suspect we'll be talking about some of them for weeks to come anyway, and if not, we're still Zelda. We could just keep talking about Zelda. We took last week off because we actually couldn't talk about any of the games we wanted to talk about, and it felt like doing a podcast for podcast's sake, and we don't want to do that. We want to bring you interesting, great content, which, speaking of, you can find via youtube.com/GodIsAGeek or patreon.com/GodIsAGeek, where you can find exclusive stuff like a food-based podcast called The Chopping Board, our Discord community, where people are discussing their Tears of the Kingdom builds and abusing Lyle generally on every other day, if not every day, and that's about it. So yeah, Chris, thanks for being here, mate.
No, thanks for having me. It's good to be back.
It's great to have you, and we will speak to you, or hopefully you every week, but everyone else, we will speak to you or whenever you choose to listen. Bye bye for now.